So, if you could go into a time machine to retrieve a piece of audio from your past, would you? What would it be? What is it that you had and now and is gone to the mists of time? What would you bring back? So, I have a few things. You could bring back more than one. Hey, I'm a generous kind of guy. I have three audio products that I would get back. And the first one was the original one. The original one wasn't exactly hi-fi. It was my parents' Wurlitzer, I believe, jukebox. So this was probably from 1960 or so. I think the jukebox was a lot older. I don't think it was a new jukebox. But I think that jukebox was where it all started for me, that the sound of that jukebox, which was surely tubes, probably had 12 or 15-inch woofers, and just had, played 45s. But the sound of that jukebox just got to me. It had the sound of, this is what music is supposed to sound like. I wasn't at that point, if I wasn't thinking about live music, I was thinking about just like when I heard it, it sounded better than other people's audio systems in their houses, and it sounded better than a car radio, and it sounded better than my little transistor radio that was my own. So it had the sense of realism, of gravitas, of, as I said, this is what it's supposed to be. And of course, when you were in a restaurant or something that had a jukebox, or a club or something, you heard jukeboxes. But, when I was a little older and I was in bars, I heard music in jukeboxes. That was the sound. So yeah, if I could get a jukebox like that, first of all, it'd be too big for my actual apartment. This is just a fantasy, right? So yeah, but in my fantasy, yes, if I could get back to that sound, that would be incredible. And how would I feel when those big woofers and that tube amp was rocking and rolling? I don't know. I might listen to it and say, is that it? It sounds to this, it sounds to that. It'd be persnickety audiophile and I wouldn't get it, right? But going with the flow here, yes, getting into that time machine to bring back, so that was probably, say a 10-year-old, a 1950s jukebox, right? And, that was modified to play 45s. And that was the other thing about the jukebox, was just watching the mechanism of the jukebox, the way, the 45s were all lined up and those fingers would come in and take the LP, take the 45 and put it on the platter, and that big massive tone arm would just plop down onto the record. Just the machinery in there. I guess that also just fascinated me, how that whole thing overworked, and I don't remember it ever breaking or not working properly. It seemed to work every time. So yeah, that Wurlitzer jukebox would be the first thing I'd put in my my fantasy shopping cart. The next thing I'd put in my fantasy shopping cart is much later. Is I owned a Koetsu Black moving coil cartridge. This would probably be in the mid '80s, I'm guessing. And Koetsu had a thing then. This is when Koetsu's got to be a thing with at least American audiophiles. So to hear what it did at home, because I worked in a store and I was selling high-end audio, but to hear the Koetsu in my home system with then a Lin LP12 turntable with probably a Lin iTalk tone arm, and a lot of preamps went through my system. But at that point, probably an Audio Research SP6B. I have no idea what the step-up device was for the moving coil. And I probably had Krell, a KSA 100 amplifier, and Snell A improved speakers. That was my system at the time. I mean, that's a pretty good system. That'd be a pretty good system today. Actually, bring back that whole system would be kind of interesting, but I don't want to be greedy. I don't want to take everything back. So let's just say the Koetsu, because the Koetsu just had this mystique to it, right? It had this kind of juice, this gutsy sound that just got to me. Other moving coil cartridges I had at that time were more detailed and more, let's say, transistory. The Koetsu had the tube warmth without any tubes being involved. So I got it. Now, I was, at that point in the 80s, I was changing cartridges all the time. I was probably changed more than once a year, and I went through many. But of all the cartridges of that time period, I would say the Koetsu Black was the one that I'd like to get back to that time machine and bring it back. Of course, I could get a new one. That's not as big as a jukebox, right? A new old one. And then last but not least, which kind of surprised me as I was thinking about doing this video, was my quad 63s. Now, I'm not a fan, I mentioned it before, of electrostatic speakers, but I had those quads for a long time, 7 or 8 years. They must have been doing something right for them to stick around here that long. This was just before I was becoming a reviewer, meaning like, I think I got rid of them in 99 or so. So I had them through most of the 90s. And they were really transparent and they imaged really well. And I mean, the amp I remember using with them, but it was flawed, but it was an Audio Research Classic 30. And there was probably some solid, maybe a crowd or two in there. But anyway, the quads had that quad thing, which is totally lost to me now. But the reason I want to bring it back from the past is, well, how would I feel if I heard that one, that specific one again? You know, it was lightly modified. I didn't have the metal, I didn't have the cloth grills on them. I just had the metal grills on. And I had them up on high stands, I guess sound anchor stands, so they weren't low to the ground like 63s usually are. So, I don't know, that one's, you know, knocking around in my audio history, and I think it's those three, the jukebox, the Koetsu, and the Quad 63. Those are my three that I would want to bring back. But, you know, I want to hear from you guys. So was it a turntable? Was it a cartridge? Was it a speaker? Was it an amplifier? What is it that from your past, it doesn't have to be distant, but let's just say that you no longer own, that you want to have one more swing at that one again? And how would you feel about it in the passage of time? Would you appreciate it more now than you actually did then? Or is it just that you're feeling nostalgic for that piece from a ways back? I don't know. You know, it's one of those things about being an audiophile for a long time is, some of you at least, have a lot of gear passing through your listening room, and winding back the clock and hearing those bygone days could be interesting, or not. You know, some of you guys I keep hearing, you just never get rid of your stuff. You just keep it forever, so you can do it anytime you want. That always amazes me. I guess people who live in houses and not apartments can just keep buying stuff, and if they don't need the money, they don't sell the old one, they just get the new one and they just put it in the closet or in the basement or the attic or something. You can go back. You know, that would be interesting to have some of you guys go back into your collection and reconnect literally with your old stuff and see how it moves you now. If you're doing that, let me know. I'd be really curious. My name is Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show, which comes up pretty much daily. You can follow me on Twitter at AudiophiliacMan. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I would love you to, and come back often. Or you can just give it a thumbs up, or one thumb up usually, and do all that social media stuff, like, share, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. If you like it a lot, check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/audiophiliac. And I will thank you in advance for doing that. Have a great day.